This is part 2 that you're going to watch with Dr. Mariam Chughtai. I hope you have already watched part 1 with her. So stay tuned, subscribe to Light Up with Shwar, and enjoy. If you're not a parent, is there any other role for a woman?
Yes, I know. So in Pakistan, you know how in the US we say whenever we meet someone, so what do you do, right?
Yeah.
So the first question in Pakistan is, how many kids do you have?
So do you get that?
Oh, all the time. And when you say that you don't have kids, so it's a conversation killer. And then if you say further that you're not even married, then they're like, what, she's not even trying to have kids, so they don't know where to place you.
You don't have a life.
Yes, they don't know what you do with your time. Just like over here, if someone said that, I don't do anything, or I don't have a 9-to-5 job, we'd be like, what do you do with your time?
Yeah, exactly. So that happens to me.
Well, I think you're here on a Sunday, so you're working on the weekend also. But yeah, I think that I think that there is so much more to life than what most people are doing. I think that my life is extremely rich with the kind of experiences I'm having, the kind of freedom I have because I do not have kids. So people may look at me as childless, but I look at myself as child-free. I, at the same time, have tremendous respect for mothers. My sister is a mother of 3. I think that, I work very hard, but I only work as hard as an average mother, and I sleep at night. Mothers have to wake up in the middle of the night.
And that is also for some time, it's not forever.
Yeah, but it does require quite a bit of yourself. And I think it's beautiful if someone decides to take on that project as a source of meaning for themselves. For me, I am giving birth to a book. I am really channeling all that's physically inside me in a way that a woman would, a woman might use a reproductive system, and I'm using my brain to really put down, and it's really taken at least 2 years. By the time it'll be done, it might be 3 to 4 years for this thing to come together and to give birth to an idea. I'm glad we're talking about this important topic. Well, to the women, I will say that it's really the best kept secret. The life of a young woman or an older woman who's independent and comfortable is the best life you can have. I mean, it's the best kept secret for a reason, because if everybody knew how fantastic your daily life is, then no woman would get married. So that's why maybe they hide it. But I think that marriage is a beautiful thing, and I think that it is meant for some people, but any kind of marriage, work, job, anything that makes you less of who you are, that makes you ungrateful for the blessings that you have, that takes you away from your relationship with God, in which you have resentment with life, that is not good. I think that God intended me to be living this life, and I am so comfortable in that wisdom of His. And I think that people who tell me that don't you wish you had kids? No, I don't wish I had kids, because I wish for God to decide for me. And I think that in fact is a less faithful, it's a faithless statement in some ways, or less faithful statement in some ways, where you think that you are the ultimate in charge of your life. I was married at one point and it didn't work out. And and later I met somebody else, and it didn't work out, and that's fine. I think that God has a purpose for each one of us, and we should be more comfortable in accepting that. One thing that is not allowed in Islam, that will not be forgiven, is shirk. And I look at that whenever a human being starts to think that my judgment is better than God's judgment. Then
so we are playing God.
I think exactly. Yeah. So that's why it doesn't bother me when people tell me that, don't you think? And the other question of, don't you get lonely? I mean, for every single person who's lonely, I can give you 5 married people who are lonely.
Yes.
It's much better to be lonely when you're alone rather than to be lonely when you're married. That is an extremely difficult place to be in. And also I feel that a lot of people who are married right now are in very unhealthy, unhappy marriages. And I don't think that that's a good place to be for their kids. And also I get that what happens when you get old, who will take care of you? In Pakistan, every elderly aging couple, their kids are abroad. They come for the funeral. They come to say goodbye.
You're so right. Nowadays, that's what the trend has been for some time. Actually.
If anyone is taking care of their parents, it's me. Who's independent. I love being around my parents. I take care of them. Because if I was married, I'd probably be living somewhere else as well. I think it's, as I said, that it's the objectification of women. When we treat women as property,
they boxed the role.
Yeah, someone else is deciding what this thing can do. For instance, if I have a pet or if I have a phone, I decide when I charge it, when I don't charge it. So similarly, people with more authority will look at their wives and their daughters as objects. That they decide when this person gets to be happy, when they get to go out, when they get to meet their parents. So this is objectification of women, which is the first thing that Islam undid. Because women were property beforehand. So it made women equal to men, that they are not property, that they're human beings. So I think that this comes from our deep South Asian cultural roots of, when a husband dies, then a woman must be burnt because, it's just like his cell phone would be of no use after. There's like, so it comes from those. These are very removed from an Islamic way of thinking.
I just want to tell the audience that this, what she mentioned was there was a tradition that women used to die with their husband once their husband were dead. So
as in they were killed.
Killed. Okay.
So when the husband's dead body was being burned. So that's when the woman was burnt with the husband.
Because now she has no purpose.
Right. So I mean, with those extreme examples, you can see that how that continues in very subtle ways, where a woman is not allowed to, make decisions for herself, and she, to such an extent that she internalizes that I don't know. So a woman always belongs to someone. She belongs to her father's house or to her husband's house.
Never to
and
herself.
Then to her sons.
Yes.
So never. So I think that's what I'm telling you, the best kept secret. That when a woman really sort of learns to belong to herself, that this is my father's home and this is my home as well. That's actually a really good way for a woman to
make up for all those
to sort of treat herself with the kind of respect that she treats everybody else with.
But do you think she is easily able to do? Because I feel there is so much resistance, like, why are you doing this now?
Yeah. Well, it comes to the point about 40 as a good age, I think that when I turned 40, I felt that, it's just been such a mindset shift for me because I have finally, seen by the time you're 40, I think you've seen really bad stuff happen to you and then go away and then good stuff happen to you.
And then you're like...
So you realize that, okay, this is what life is, but you're not that old yet, like an old lady in her 80s who can just speak her mind but can't do anything. So 40s is a time when you still have like the next 3-4 decades in front of you. You can really live your life on your own terms. So whether you've been married with kids and all and now they're grown up or not, and grown up could be as good as now they're off to school, because I think it is important to take care of kids when they're young, but when you feel that the time is right, don't waste your time away by finding another purpose where you're sort of in a support role to someone else. Be your own support role, and I think whether it's great if you're happily married or not happily married, and now you're past those responsibilities. To really, there is so much to do. Pick up a new hobby. That's
very important.
Start learning about something.
Because women also lose themselves once they're a little older and their kids go away or they're busy and their husbands are whatever.
I think that is the real threat to old age, when you are forever going to be independent.
And have nothing
to do. And then your mind starts to play games on you because you start to become a little bit. Your world is so dependent on other people that you cannot really sustain yourself, and the realities of getting older and health challenges. So then you feel betrayal when someone doesn't take care of you. But if you've really developed your 40s, 50s, and 60s into being this independent person,
and take care of your health.
Yes, I think.
And not to sacrifice that all the time.
It can. So you should talk to yourself the way you would expect your best friend to talk to yourself. You should treat yourself with that kind of a respect, no matter what your age.
That's a good point. Okay, good. let's come to you a little more than what we have done so far. Thank you for all what you have, talked about. It's a very rich conversation. I can sit with her for next 3-4 hours. Actually.
But I don't know if they can sit with me for that long.
No, I will chop it into parts. So, anyways, Mariam, I really appreciate your insight, your experience, your sharing with us all what you have been sharing. So I would say that your relationship now with your parents is, how would you define in a few words?
As I mentioned, that a lot of people I know who are wonderful people and content with their lives, I saw them coming back to Pakistan to say goodbye to their parents and to bury their parents. But I felt that it's very important for me to make memories with my parents, to spend time with them. I'm not saying it should be for everybody, but I think that they have had such a foundational role in making me who I am today, that it is my ethical responsibility and also something that gives me immense pleasure to, ask my mother, how's your shoulder today? And for her to tell me, oh, it's a little bit better, but not so much. And to be able to have this conversation, because you see, the most precious resource in the world is not money, it's time. When you really care about someone, you will give them the most precious resource, your minutes.
She's giving me time. Thank you.
So I think that my relationship with my parents has evolved to a place where I can be more of a caretaker for them, although they're not very old.
Yeah.
But they're both full-time working or studying or something, so they're really inspirational. But in a way in which I can talk to them and ask them about their life and get to know them as people rather than push myself onto them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Did you feel safe when you were growing up with your parents?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like to give one advice how parents can make their children feel comfortable rather than scolding them in front of others?
Let me first respond to the earlier question about the compulsion that parents have of publicly reprimanding their kids. I think that if you are reprimanding or punishing the child verbally or physically, which is terrible, but if you are doing that with the purpose of actually fostering corrective action in the kid, then a more rational way of doing it, a faster way of doing it, is to do it in a way that they are not embarrassed. If you can communicate with an individual, make them understand what happened and why it was wrong, you are enabling an environment of greater learning and reducing the likelihood of the repeat behavior. But if you embarrass the person, even in a one-on-one conversation, if you embarrass them by calling them names or by making them feel that they're inherently bad or incompetent,
especially by parents.
Yeah, so that
teachers do that too.
Right. So that's not going to accomplish it. Now, if you are scolding or punishing the child or a young adult because of unhappiness in your own life, because a lot of people are really just offloading.
But how would they know?
So that's my advice, that if you find yourself exercising power over someone who has less power than you, this can be whether it's a staff member who works in your home, it could be a relative who is not as wealthy as you, it could be someone on the street, or it could be your child. Anytime there's a power differential and you feel that you are exploiting that power, it is important for you to really understand where that need is coming from, because you are perhaps being abused by someone who has more power over you. And for you need to really sort of understand if you want to turn back to the person who is being abusive towards you, or to remove yourself from that situation, or if none of that is possible, to at least break the chain where you are not just a transmitter of abuse onto someone else. Because it doesn't stop, because kids will then go and hurt animals and pets.
And they will bully.
And they will bully others. So you are just a transmitter then.
Yep.
So first of all, you have to understand, are you punishing the kid because you want corrective behavior in the kid? Or are you punishing it because you have a need to punish right now?
Very good point. Thank you. How can we develop listening abilities in parents and people in general? Have you learned that was that a learned process for you, or you were just a
parenting
good
is very,
listener?
very tough anyway. I think that asking parents to do any more than they already do is a really big thing. So for parents to listen, I think the right way of approaching it is that if you want to make parenting easier, it is important to listen more for the underlying problem rather than just try to cover up the symptom.
Is parenting selfless, or is it does it have some selfish motives?
Well, I think it really depends on the individual. If the individual is, a person who is looking for, they may be a materialistic person, for instance, and wearing certain kinds of clothing or dining in certain kinds of places are their way of telling the world about who they are, and they like to show off, then they would treat their kids as that too. So which school their kids go to, what kinds of clothes they wear and all that, so they will project that on the kids. But if a person is more authentic about, this is my, this is who I am, and I'm secure in who I am, whether I wear the fanciest clothes or whether I don't, do any of that stuff, but this is who I am. They will treat kids in a selfless manner, as individuals. But a lot of people look at their kids as an extension of themselves, and they, force the kids to be exactly, not even like the parents, but like their best imagination of what a person should be, because they think that they want to be better than someone else's kids, or they want to be better than their colleague, and say, my kid goes to that school, my kid got that many A's.
So it's more about parents rather than the child.
Yes,
right?
certainly.
It's always the issue is more, or the conscious parenting, that's the topic of my podcast, is that parents need to pay attention to themselves rather than focusing all the time on the children and not paying attention
I think
to their
the
behavior.
first manifestation of your attitude is in your kids, because they're there all the time.
Yeah.
But I think you really need to, as parents, have a reflective stand and capacity to think about, why is it so important for me that my kid get all A's and not a single A minus, for instance. Now, you may tell yourself it's because it'll be better for this person's career, but really ask yourself the same question over and over again and think about it, that, okay, but would it really make a big difference if this kid got an A minus every now and then? So when you ask yourself the same question again and again, I think you will go deeper and understand that whether you're doing it for selfless reasons, which are for the child, or selfish reasons, which are for yourself.
Thank you. That was a good detailed answer. What is to live a healthy, fulfilling life for you? Let's come to some, this is the second last part, and then I'll have the last leg of questions.
A healthy and fulfilling life for me is one in which you can go to sleep at night and feel like that you didn't, that if you did make a mistake, you have learned from that mistake. And that you are constantly thinking about how you can be a more content and useful person. I think that is a healthy and meaningful life.
Is forgiveness important to have for the peace of mind?
Self-forgiveness certainly is. Sometimes we won't forgive the other person, and that's fine. Sometimes people hurt you in ways that it's hard to forgive them, or forget at least. But at least in my case, I used to really not forgive myself, that why did I even trust this person? And I think that you cannot undo the past, and it's okay to not forgive other people, but it's okay, it's important to forgive yourself,
so that you can move
for contentment.
Okay. Wow, that's very important indeed. One thing that you like about yourself, and one thing that you would like to change.
I like about myself.
Can be more, but let's start with one.
I like the fact that I celebrate every birthday.
Okay.
And I don't celebrate by a big party or something, but on my birthday I'm just very happy. every year.
Good.
Like a 4-year-old who has her birthday, and I start. My older brother jokes with me that if it's not almost your birthday, it's still your birthday. So for 6 months of the year, I'm celebrating the previous birthday, and the rest of the 6 months, I'm preparing for my birthday.
Nice.
So I like that. I like the fact that I take joy in simple things. And if I had to change something, I think I take too much stress sometimes about things that are not in my control. And I'm working on that.
Okay.
But
with all the adventures you have been doing, you take that?
Yeah, I think it stresses me out sometimes when I feel that I could have done something better. But I think that's something that comes with time.
Okay.
So
Thank you. All right. Let's come to the last leg of questions.
last leg. There's so many more.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to do that, get more from her and just say, okay, I'm coming to the end. And if there is something after I ask, something that you would like to say or give a message, please do so. You can do that. Because I'm so excited and happy and doing all this that I might have forgotten, and later I will say, oh my God, I should have asked this, so what happened? So, all right, so what is wealth in your experience?
Experiences. I think you should not spend money on things. You should spend money on experiences.
What do you mean by that?
So it could be, for instance, I like to travel.
Okay.
And whether it's within Pakistan or outside, to go to an unknown place, and travel can be expensive. So I think I'm wealthy because I have such a diverse worldview and I have so many experiences. Or, if we look at wealth in terms of time, I think spending your time with different kinds of people, with people you would never talk to, stopping and talking to the homeless person. You don't have to give them $5 to talk to them for 5 minutes. I think that is a richer experience for you and for that person many times. I mean, you should still give $5 too, but giving $5 is easier. But giving 5 minutes of really listening is a lot more expensive. So I think that is one.
What is the value of gratitude in your life?
Well, like I said, that I have a lot of faith in all the challenges and successes that have come my way, that they were part of a larger plan, and I'm very grateful for that. And even when I writing this book is very challenging for me. It's sort of like signing up for, okay, I would like to fail 5 times a day every day in how to be a scholar, and but I'm going to get up every morning and still go and fail again 10 times. So I think that I'm very grateful for that opportunity, that I have an appetite for failure. I think that gratitude is extremely important, not just for the good things that happen to you, but for all the bad that happens to you. And that, I think, is my definition of being thankful.
Would you mind if I ask you about the book? What is the title? Can you give it out yet?
I
or
don't
not,
have a
not
title yet,
okay.
But my dissertation title was What Produces a History Textbook.
Okay.
But this will probably look at the link between education and radicalization in Pakistan.
Okay, that's very important.
Yeah.
And what's the timeline? When is it
I'm
going to be
thinking that
out?
it will be published sometime in the middle of next year.
Middle of next year. Okay.
So in
So
2020.
So maybe by then, before that and after that, I can have her sit here
We
or
can do
somewhere
another one.
Yeah, exactly.
My answers will probably be completely different.
That's no problem. Are you conscious about the environment, about the climate change and all? Are you aware, or do you recycle?
Yes, I do, and it's very important to do that because
In Pakistan, you're doing it?
Yeah, in
Okay.
Pakistan too, and it's little things. There's a saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him. I think that if you save one drop, it's like saving the ocean. It counts as one sawab. So I think that being environmentally conscious is part of our religious DNA, and I know that in our lifetimes we are going to see and look back at these days and think of ourselves as barbarics who had single-use plastic,
Yep.
and who would just take plastic water bottles. I think that it takes 500 years for one plastic bottle to degenerate. So I think that it's really cruel what we are doing, and it's only because everyone is doing it, that's why we don't realize it. But in the next 50, 20 years, life will change significantly, and hopefully for the better.
I haven't, that reminds me, I didn't even offer you water.
Oh, no, I have to take you out for coffee after that.
What's the state of environmental consciousness in Pakistan, in your experience?
It's not good at all, actually, because there is no systemic recycling program.
Yep.
So that was a big shift for me, coming from having lived in Massachusetts for about 10 years, where people also compost.
Yep.
But I know some people, even living in the US, in Massachusetts, who think recycling is not necessary. Some people who will care for the planet and some who will not. So I hope, in fact, I was thinking about this, that in Pakistan, I'm sure there's one of my entrepreneurs in Peshawar. I have this big project in KP where we are enabling youth entrepreneurs across. He's based in Mardan, not Peshawar. He has a recycling plant where he collects Tetra Packs. Not a recycling plant, he collects Tetra Packs from garbage and he sends them to a recycling facility, and he makes money from that, so to clean up the environment. So I think younger people are a lot more conscious.
Yeah. What is the purpose of your life? Have you found it? Are you still looking for it? What's your purpose?
I think my purpose, I haven't yet fully found it, but I think that's the point. I would be really concerned if I knew what the purpose of my life was, and because I'm open to living every day to my fullest and letting the purpose of my life be determined by my destiny. If I decide the purpose of my life is to write a book, and then what will I do after that's done?
Yeah.
Will I be without a purpose?
But can we have more purposes of life?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so similarly, I think, the purpose of someone's life should not be of service to another person's life.
Okay.
I think for mothers and fathers, it's good, important to make sure that you are providing safety and sustenance to younger people that you bring into this world. But my purpose is to really sort of help as many people as I can.
But that is also something, depends on where you are helping, right?
Yeah.
I mean, philanthropy is serving others, helping others.
Yeah, so there are many ways of helping
Right.
someone. Yeah.
So what's the difference? Parents do it. Maybe I misunderstood your answer. So you're saying that the only purpose shouldn't be that just to serve your.
No, I don't think, I wasn't saying that. I'm saying that is one way of living your
Yes,
life.
yes.
If
Taking
you
care
have-
of your
children.
children.
I think if you have children, that should be the purpose of your life, to take care of them, because you brought them to this world. Unless you are incapable of doing that. But I think that even that should not be the only purpose in your entire life. I think you should remain dynamic, and you should seek out, even if your purpose is to go out every day and appreciate the beauty, the greenery, the change of seasons, the rain. I think that kind of gratitude can be a beautiful purpose as well.
Well, in fact, in our the book we follow as Muslims, the Quran has that don't make your children a weakness. So,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
means that yes, you do take care of them, but don't make them the focal of your life.
Absolutely.
Focus of your life.
You'll be better parents if you don't.
Do you want this book to be your legacy, part of your legacy?
Well, I certainly hope that it will inspire some really important, ideas and discussions in the intellectual community, and being a part of that conversation and being a part of that in-group that is talking about the things that are most important to the human condition in our times. Violence, extremism, hatred. I think those, to be a part of that conversation, I think is really meaningful for me.
So you have decided to be in Pakistan.
I have.
Okay.
When I moved back, I did
Did
not.
people say to you, why are you going and why are you coming?
Yes, absolutely. Because no one goes back.
Yeah. Most people.
Nobody goes back, and But when I went back, I went back with this mindset that I'm not going to be 1 foot here, 1 foot there.
Okay.
I'm going back for 15 years. And for the first 2 years, I'm not going to judge whether this was a good decision or bad decision. So in the beginning, first of all, having something to do over there. So don't just show up without a job, and because then you will come back right away. For the lack of ethics that you will find over there, you will find other things that you will not find here.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a totally different part of the ocean. It's not like you cannot compare, oh, this city is that way, that city.
That's right.
It's its own rules, kind of like when Nemo gets lost in the ocean and then there's like turtles over there. So it's a different part of the ocean. So you can't really compare. And then it's also good to, come back every now and then, step out. I would say for Pakistan, there is so much more to Pakistan than we, have associated ourselves with. Go out, meet people. You don't have to confine yourself to a particular social circle. I, for instance, go to sleep by 9 p.m. and social life in Lahore starts at 10:30 p.m. So
that's something very different.
Yeah,
so you're choosing
nothing is stopping me from doing that, right?
Right.
So I think that you can do that and start finding joy in things that you will only have over there.
Absolutely.
That you will not. Like a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine from my college days, he had an untimely death and he passed away, leaving behind a wife and two daughters. And I was at work, and we got news, and so I went to his house, and as I was going there were people coming from all different directions, going to his house, and that was the moment for me when I realized that, okay, this is what Pakistan is, and it's so beautiful, because in the US, I think you have to schedule a funeral, but it was understood at a place of work, and my friend was gone. He was not going to know that I was going to come and visit.
Exactly.
No one from his family knew me, and all our other classmates, but it was just something that at a time of loss, the entire society comes together. And that was so profound for me, having lived in an individualistic society for so long, that the beauties of a collectivist society are just so profound. I mean, we just reduce it, oh, everyone's in your business, everyone is asking you, when are you getting married? Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, the beauty of a collective life, family-based living, and how having healthy relationships, I think that is just so understated, and you should find joy in those things, and that will really help.
Wonderful. So we have hope. So don't be afraid of moving back. All right, so my last question. What lights you up?
I think whenever I engage with just brilliant ideas, and they can be, a conversation with the Nobel laureate at Harvard, or it can be while reading a book and half a sentence which just sparks in my mind, wow, I never thought about it that way. That just is so cosmic for me. That is so much beyond this physical life. It feels like an engagement with ideas is talking to people over time and enriching yourself with truth, or being closer to truth. Harvard's logo says Veritas, which means truth, and God is Allah, the truth. So I think whenever I find myself inching towards truth, there's no ultimate truth I suppose I could ever get to, but that experience of creating knowledge, engaging with knowledge, scholarship, that is just mind-blowing for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So my experience with this interview was really intense and thought-provoking. I have given other interviews, but I think that I really enjoyed this experience because I felt you were genuinely curious, and I felt very comfortable. So I appreciate that. I don't think I would have opened up as much if it wasn't you who was interviewing me.
I really appreciate that. That's so nice of you to say that. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching part 2 with Dr. Mariam Chughtai. I hope you have already watched part 1 with her as well. Please do subscribe, share, rate, and review. Do go to my website, lightupvichwa.com. Send me your comments, feedback, emails, anything you want to. do explore my website, and I hope you will continue to watch or listen to Light Up with Shwa. Thank you and enjoy.